Welcome everyone to Eat Travel Life. We are going to make apple pie today, and here are the things you need. Let's start out by grabbing our chilled pie dough. You are going to want to go ahead and take that out of the plastic and then lay it down onto your surface. Make sure that you put lots of flour down and give yourself a little bit on the side so that you can bring that in when you're rolling out your dough. The reason why you want to have chilled dough is you don't want that dough just to melt into the surface as you're slowly thinning it out. So go ahead and put all the bits on, and let's go ahead and get our rolling pin. You're going to want to take your rolling pin, add a little flour so the dough doesn't stick, and then move different ways. It's really chilled, so you're going to have to use a lot of pressure. We're going to want to get this down to a 1/4 inch in size, in thickness. So go ahead and just roll that. You'll want to flip it over and roll it some more. Try to make a shape of a circle. Our pastry, try to make it into a circle as much as you can. Go ahead, flip it over, and then roll it out some more. Don't worry about it being perfect. We can fix it if it's not perfect while you're rolling it out. This looks perfect. You will use your rolling pin and to pull it off of the pastry sheet so that you can move it into your pie pan, and just go ahead and scrape off any excess. You can put that in to use to fill in any holes. Go ahead and place that pie dough into the pie pan and just gently press it down into the pan so that there's no gaps between the pan and the pie. Don't worry about that it doesn't uh, look like a circle, but go ahead and press any edges together that have torn, and any excess pie. You can go ahead and patch your pie crust in the excess into those areas, but make sure that you leave enough on the edge so that you can roll it up and make a nice crust on the edges. You can see I'm doing that here, and we're just pinching it a little bit. Check over the crust to make sure that there is no holes, and if you have extras, patch up any additional areas. You want to make sure that there's enough to have a crust on the top there, and then go ahead and pinch it. I'm just using pulling in and pinching with my 2 fingers together, and just pull it around to turn it, and continue to pinch and fill. Give it a little bit of an edge. We're going to put a lattice top on, so this doesn't need to be perfect, but it'll look pretty. And there it is. Beautiful. Now let's go ahead and make the lattice. We had divided the dough out into 2 different pieces, and this one's a little bit smaller. Go ahead again and flour your surface, and let's go ahead and roll out the dough just like we did before, flouring your rolling pin to make sure it doesn't stick. roll out the dough. It's going to be hard and difficult to roll, but you want to have a cold dough. If you have a warm dough, it's not going to be easy to work with, and you're going to want to not touch it with your hands as much as possible. You don't want to melt the flour and not the flour. You're not going to want to melt the butter and shortening that's in there. But get it really thin, about a quarter inch in size. Don't worry about it being super thin. It kind of puffs up when it's cooking. Go ahead and get it as wide as you possibly can. And then I just used my pastry cutter and I drew lines. These don't have to be perfect. If you want it to be perfect, you can get a ruler out. We're home cooking here. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not trying to win a prize. I just want to eat pie. These look good. Go ahead and pull half of them off. It's time to braid them together. So every other one, you're going to want to pull them back and start in the middle. It'll be easier to work that way. Don't worry about the pie strips not being perfect. They're going to be hidden with the lattice, and it's not a problem. Just go ahead and keep weaving them together. Great. Now what we need to do is put this on top of the pie. I'm going to fold over the pastry sheet that's there and move everything around, and then I'm going to put the lattice onto the rolling pin and gently put it in. It's going to fall apart a little bit, not a problem, but this is so much easier to do it this way than try to braid it to weave it into the on top of the pie. It's just a mess when you do it that way. This is a deep dish, so it took 2 quarts of pie filling, and if you can, great. We canned it. If not, you can use canned pie filling. That works just as well from the store. And you don't want to overfill it. You don't want to be touching the crimped edge of your pie. And you can adjust it a little bit if you needed. Carefully and slowly, let's go ahead and put that lattice on top of the pie. And make sure you give yourself enough room to do this. And don't be afraid. It's going to fall apart a little bit, but we'll fix it. Anywhere that fell apart, just pull it back apart and reweave it together. And move things around. If you've got a little bit extra, you can fill it in. You can try to hide some of the broken areas under the lattice so it's not as noticeable. But when it bakes up, it's going to be beautiful. You can go ahead and cut any excess of the lattice around the pie and use those bits to fix the areas that you have that might be missing some of the lattice. Go ahead and grab your egg and go ahead and beat it up. You can add a little water in there if you want to, and then gently brush it onto the crust. This will give it a nice glisten. Be gentle because your little pieces that aren't all secure will move around, so you might have to adjust them, and that's fine. Go ahead and grab your sugar. We used raw sugar and just sprinkle it onto the crust. That'll give it a little sweetness. And then you're ready to bake. We are going to start this pie in the oven at 400 degrees for about 10 minutes and then reducing the heat down to 350. That will allow the bottom of the pie to cook and then allow the rest of it to cook together with that. And doesn't it just look so delicious? Happy baking!